Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes, our subject matter, as we said, is what does it mean to be envious? And how to cure that envy by taking shelter of the holy name. Well, I suspect that we at least have a general idea what envy means. We could put it in this very simple, basic terms, that you have something I don't have, and I feel, I should have, I could have, I must have, I'd like to have that, but I don't have, and therefore I become emotionally affected, and my attitude towards you becomes very emotionally negative because you have something I don't have and I feel I should have, and like that. Something along those lines. Something along those. At least that's certainly a component of it, you could say. I thought I'd begin, though, by reading one verse from Bhagavad Gita, which is a very nice verse. It's actually chapter 9, verse 1. Chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Let's read that verse first. But actually, before that, just repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yeah, because, we can chant that mantra many times. You can chant it like chanting japa, actually. It's a very sacred mantra, so it's nice to chant it more. Okay, so here we go. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Tute Guyatamam Pravakshyam Yanasuyave Gyanam Vigyana Sahitam Yajgyat Va Mokshase Shubhat. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." So here's Lord Krishna then mentioning this idea of being envious, or the point really, of course, is that how much he appreciates it if you are not envious. So on the other hand, we could deduce by a form of reverse logic how much he does not like it if we are envious. It's something which really, you could say, bothers Krishna. It upsets Krishna when people are envious. And for that matter, generally all those lower qualities, lust, anger, greed, pride, arrogance, envy, they're all in a very similar category. They're relatives. They're relatives. And relatives in the sense that they're connected with each other. And they kind of, you could say, they feed each other. They nourish, stimulate, strengthen each other. Yeah, so, but also they, the tendency is when you have one, you have the others. Yeah, like relatives. Anyway, when you have one, you tend to have the other. It's unusual. Particularly, for example, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 62. What does Krishna say in chapter 2, verse 62? Devotees. Jayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu vijayate sangat sanjayate kama to krodho vijayate. Krishna says that while contemplating the objects of the senses, sort of checking them out, how do they look? While contemplating the objects of the senses, attachment for them develops. From attachment. Attachment in that sense means some like serious interest, not just a passing little flicker, but some real interest, some focus. So and then from that attachment, lust develops. It's just the next phase. This is real evolution, not Darwinian evolution. That from attachment, lust just naturally comes. And then from lust, what does Krishna say? From lust comes satisfaction and happiness. Is that right? No? Did I get mixed up there? But that's what they think. That's what they think from lust. Lust in this context means not just desiring and, on a mental level. That's more the attachment, the stage before. Attachment that you become focused and, you really want it. Lust in this context means then you carry out your program to get it and experience it. It includes that. It includes getting whatever the thing is you're interested in and then experiencing it, trying to enjoy it. But then from lust, Krishna says, anger arises. But generally people think happiness, satisfaction arises because that's the whole platform of their existence, really. We're looking for happiness. How to achieve it? Well, the main thing is lusty activities. Anyway, that's sort of just by the way. But envy is related. Envy is related. because you may become attached. Oh, looks very nice, I want it, but someone else has it. Oh, that feels bad. Whatever it may be, could be anything. Like, how about, what do you think? Your favorite samosa at the Sunday feast. Of course, this is transcendental, although our consciousness may not be. We see it, and we think, is it? What is it? Is it paneer and sweet corn, or is it just aloo? Oh, if it's just aloo, then you can have it. But if it's paneer and sweet corn, I must have it. But there's the last one, and you are praying, please, and there's one person in front of you in the queue. Please inspire this devotee, Krishna, inspire this devotee not to want this samosa because I want it. But then the devotee takes that samosa. And then envy arises. So it's all part of the process. They're all connected up, and the tendency very much, not just tendency, but it just works like that. That where you've got one, you've got the other. In other words, here's an interesting little bit of transcendental psychology. In many cases, not always necessarily, but in many cases, when you see someone becoming angry, like really quite angry, so it strikes you that, oh, look at this person, they're angry. That would tend to, according to Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, verse 62, that would tend to indicate that they have been in a lusty mood, wanting and trying to enjoy, and at least wanting to enjoy different material things, but then failing to really enjoy, and so just a sort of a general mood starts to pervade the consciousness, a mood of anger. And they may snap at this one, snap at that one, and they're just ready to snap at anyone. Yes. So there's a little transcendental psychology, because lust and anger, they are just intimately, and you could say inextricably, connected with each other. So envy is also in there. So we read this verse then, my dear Arjuna, because you're never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you'll be relieved of the miseries of material existence. In the commentary of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan, very great devotee, who Srila Prabhupada actually has dedicated his Bhagavad Gita as it is to. In one of those first few pages, you'll see the whole page, Prabhupada, it's a dedication to Baladev Vidyabhushan. About this verse, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan says, he sort of raises the question, what does envy mean? And then he answers his own question. He says, to the effect that envy means that we study another person. We look at them, quite intently. And we strive to see their faults, even in the midst of many good qualities. But the good qualities, we don't really worry about them. but we strive to see what are the faults. Even in the midst of many good qualities. This is his, you could say it's something like a definition or a type of explanation, idea of envy, how envy works. So envy then is very ugly. It's a very ugly thing. And it really undermines the character of a person, and particularly of a devotee. So we should try to become free from, we should certainly try to become free from envy. Become free. Free is a big word, isn't it? Free. It's only 4 words, but to become, 4 letters. To become free, that's quite something. At least we should try gradually to become free from envy. It may not be so easy, just like that. And there, in terms of how to do that, well, the second half of the question, or the subject matter, is sort of pointing us in the direction, you could say, that we can get free by chanting the holy names. Very true. Actually, I would say in a broader sense also, that, in fact, you know what I would say? I would say there are 2 aspects of the program, the process, for trying to become free from envy. One is the more long-term, more long-term approach. Means that step by step as you progress in Krishna consciousness, then simply by your efforts to progress, become more attached to Krishna, serve Krishna better, and serve Krishna more, associate with the devotees more and better, and serve the devotees and chant, all these things which make up the way of life of Krishna consciousness. As you work on it, there's just an ongoing process of purification. And you may find, in fact, many devotees say how they found that they began their Krishna consciousness, they had many attachments and many sort of interests in the material world and negative emotions, things like this. But then they started practicing, and after a while they found out, they just sort of looked at themselves again, and they thought, oh, look at that. I have not exhibited certain bad qualities much, or maybe even at all, for a while now. This is quite something. Previously, regularly or from time to time, these things would bother me. But actually for a while, I haven't been disturbed by this. And that just indicates that your heart has become purified or is becoming. It's very much a step-by-step thing. But the purification works, even if perhaps you were not making a particular effort to get free from that type of attitude or mood. But you just found, oh, I haven't felt like that for a little while. So here's an interesting example we give sometimes, I'm sure you've heard it before, is that one devotee one devotee, I was told, he was asked by someone, how did you give up meat? How did you give up meat? Sometimes some people, they really can't understand how you could or why you would, but particularly how you could give up eating meat. And the devotee responded, you know what the devotee responded, right? The devotee responded, I did not give up meat. Meat gave up me. Sounds a little paradoxical. Yeah, I didn't give up meat. Meat gave up me. And then he elaborated, he explained, I was just practicing Krishna consciousness. I was not trying to fight with meat. Get back, meat, bang. But then meat comes back, attacking me again. Not like that. I was just carrying on. And then after a while, I realized, I'm just not interested in this any longer. And just, the interest is gone. It's just, what on earth? Why? Why would I be interested in that? So this is just illustrating this point, and it's an extremely important point, that simply through cultivating our Krishna consciousness, these undesirable, nasty attitudes, emotions, moods, and the activities which are based on them, they just become cleansed away. And ultimately, that's the main thing. Ultimately, that's the main thing. But still, we have to make an effort. Because in the meantime, if you've had this experience that you've been practicing Krishna consciousness, then after a while you realized that your interest in something negative had gone, apparently, or at least reduced. If you've had that experience, then if you've had that experience and now you're thinking, I'm just not interested in that, I have made some advancement. Look at me. Pat myself on the back. Very clever. I have become free from whatever it may be. If you start thinking like that yes, it was me, because I'm clever and spiritual and progressive, therefore now I've become free from, shall we say, envy. If this has ever happened to you, you feel you've become free or you're becoming free of something and you're celebrating and appreciating yourself, you know what the next stage is? It comes back. It comes back and starts haunting you again, like a ghost, like Spooky the ghost. It comes back. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. I have. Suddenly find, wow, I've got that problem again. I thought I was finished with that. But as soon as you start self-congratulation, Krishna immediately thinks, you stupid nonsense. You think you're advanced, do you? Okay, well, let's just see. And then he sends some of those ideas, and before you know, your mind is being affected by them again, even though you thought you had cleverly become free. So, yeah. So it's very interesting. This is the main thing for getting free from all of these lust, anger, greed, and envy, etc. The main thing is your ongoing cultivation of Krishna consciousness. But in the meantime, sometimes you may have to fight a little with those very desires or feelings, emotions. Because it may happen, just consider this, that you're making some progress. You're making some progress. You're becoming a bit free from some of these things. But then someone, let us just say, anger, reacting to people if they do things or say things against you. So you're becoming somewhat free, but you're not actually free. And then someone does something, like steal your samosa or your gulab jamun. I'm sure you know that story. I've told it umpteen times. The devotees with Prabhupada in India, the first time that any Western devotees went to India. And they went to one of Prabhupada's godbrothers' temples, and that devotee served a big feast, and Prabhupada took prasad with the devotees. But he didn't take much, and then his servant distributed the maha from Prabhupada. And the one devotee, I won't mention his name, got the gulab jamun, which Prabhupada had taken a bite from. Ooh, my gosh, this is just high level, super high level prasad. And the devotee got it and was just visually relishing and thinking, victory. Yes, I have done well. But another devotee came and just grabbed it and ate it. And then it was too late. I must tell you one thing I saw many years ago. It was actually like 91, 2, 3, around that time. We were in Vrindavan at the place of Govinda Maharaj and Shivaram Maharaj, and there was a feast was being served to just a small group. And we were there, and I think Giriraj Maharaj was eating some prasadam of some sort. And Burijan Prabhu, if you've heard of him, very wonderful devotee, he just got this inspiration. He wanted some of the nectar. And Giriraj Maharaj was chewing on whatever it was, but with an open mouth, you know. My mother told me, when you eat, you must not open your mouth. But his mouth was open. And Burijan Prabhu just lunged forward, right into his mouth, in between the teeth, and just grabbed some of it. Wow, talk about high level Mahaprasad. But anyway, this one devotee grabbed it, and it was gone to the land of no return. And the devotee who initially had received it got extremely upset. He got extremely upset. And he complained to Srila Prabhupada, hoping or expecting even that Prabhupada would say something like, would chastise the thief and punish him. You must fast for 1 month. That would be quite something, wouldn't it? Something like that, but Prabhupada simply laughed and said, oh, he was very intelligent. Okay. So anyway, we were saying you may find yourself in such a situation. You are making some progress, So you're becoming free to some degree, in this case perhaps of anger, or it may be anger mixed with envy. But then someone does something like that, and then your mood comes up. And then what do? Because you haven't become completely free, although to some degree you are. Previously you might have shot him, but now you just want to punch him. So what to do? Do you then say that, well, I don't want to be artificial. Being artificial is not good in Krishna consciousness. So if I feel like punching him in the nose, I should just do it. Yeah, because I don't want to be artificial. Yes, and artificially restrain myself. It would be artificial, and that is sinful. So I must punch him in the nose. No, you must make the effort. This also has to be there. Purification is going on step by step as time goes on and as you persevere. But still, sometimes these things become a little prominent and you have to take some action to do the right thing, even though your mind, your emotions may want to do something other than the right thing. So both have to be there. It's an interesting situation. It's not just one or the other. It's not just do it yourself. I will fight with my mind. Whenever some negative emotion comes up, I will just fight. And that's the program. Neither is it simply that we just wait for the purification to take place over a period of time. And in the meantime, if some negativity comes up, we just let it. So both have to be there. Both have to be there. Although the main thing is the long-term purification. That is really removing things on a deeper level, not just some immediate mental level. So both things have to be there. So what to do then? Like in terms of some immediate things, what to do if you find yourself becoming envious? Shall we just say that you come to the temple and you see someone and you know this devotee is not so serious. They are what we used to call in the old days, we've also mentioned many times, members of Krishna's fan club. Means that in many temples on the Sunday program, they have arti, they have the class, then they have the arti, then they serve prasad. And some devotees have got it strategically worked out that they arrive just at the end of the arti when the fan is being offered to the deity. We used to call them Krishna's fan club. So there, this person is like that. This is a, full-fledged, registered, card-carrying member of Krishna's fan club. Be there in the class, forget it. Maybe if his guru is coming, maybe, but maybe not also. So there you are, and you see that person, and you recognize, fan club member, the chairman. But this devotee now is dressed very nicely, dhoti and kurta. And the dhoti is ironed so elegantly, sort of glossy. And the tilak, looks like Michelangelo painted it on. And the hand is just in the bead bag, just going for it. And you look at that person and you think, what a nonsense. You know, back in my surfing days, we would call the person a poser. Little surfing culture from Australia. A poser, yeah, just putting on a front, like some sort of cool devotee, but actually he's a member of the fan club. And then your mind gets into it. Did it ever happen to you? Did it ever happen to you? Something like that? It did. Once. If you want to know about it, you can ask him. But, you know, these things happen. You know, how about one for the ladies? That, you know, the ladies wear saris, and they're usually quite variegated. If you were going to, if anyone really wanted to, you could check out the ladies today, and I think you would see that no two ladies have exactly the same sari on. Because, you know, they're mass-produced. They're mass-produced. It's not like each one is done by hand. They're mass-produced. The same thing, they make 100 copies or whatever it is. And you, one of the ladies, may come into the temple room and see that there's another lady with exactly the same sari on. And your mind may then also hit the panic button a little bit. Do I have to race home and change my sari? Oh, what to do? So yeah, what to do though? What could we do? You know, of course we said main thing is your ongoing practice. That's the main thing in the long run. Simply fighting with your mind on its own level, fighting the mind with the mind. This is not a long-time solution. And this is why, you know, you get people like Alcoholics Anonymous. They're trying to fight with this problem on its own level, on the level of the mind and the senses. And as a result, even though oftentimes initially they sort of pick up, it happens in many cases, they pick up, but they have told me that the failure rate in the longer run is generally at least 90%. At least 90%. Because you're trying to fight the problem on the level of the problem. And you know, problems are tough. Yeah. There's a famous saying, very famous. Have you heard this one before? You've heard of drowning your problems? I tried to drown my problems, but they learned how to swim. It happens like that. So when you're trying to fight a problem on the level of the problem, it's very difficult to make a long-term solution. Some do, but much more often than not, they fail. So therefore, the real solution with envy or lust, anger, greed, any of these things, is to come to a higher platform through Krishna consciousness. You know what Yamunacharya says, you must have heard. He had been a big enjoyer, a king, and his specialty was, so to speak, collecting women. Yes. He was extremely wealthy, powerful, and he would collect women and enjoy life. And he thought, this is the best thing for me. Then he became a devotee. And he actually became a very elevated devotee. He became the great Acharya, Yamuna Acharya. Yeah. Spiritual master of Ramanujacharya, something like that. So he wrote one verse in which he says that now I've tasted the nectar of Krishna consciousness. When I look back to how I used to enjoy, quote unquote, with women, then now I'm experiencing this much higher taste. When I think of all those things I did and how it felt and what it was like, then it seems stupid. It's just like, why on earth? How could I have? And he says, when I think about it, then my lips curl in distaste, and I just spit at the thought. I just spit at the thought. It's just rubbish. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai. Aha. Okay. But anyway, can I just throw in one other little something? Yeah, on the immediate level though, because some action on the immediate level is required. It really is. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Okay, is, at least say amongst devotees, particularly amongst devotees, if you have this tendency, problem, sometimes becoming envious for whatever reason of another devotee, then try this. Learn the 26 qualities of a devotee. They are, for example, in Chaitanya Charitamrita. They're in various places in Prabhupada's books. Learn them, the 26 qualities of a devotee. And then in a very conscious way, like a disciplined, deliberate way, next time you see the devotee you are prone to become envious of, look at them and try and see how they have at least some of those qualities, how they actually exhibit those qualities sometimes. And really try to appreciate that, understand these are the 26 qualities of devotee. This means this person is a devotee, is a real devotee, because he or she is exhibiting the natural qualities of a devotee. And then you can even go to that person and tell them, you know, I saw yesterday or today you were doing something, exhibiting some devotee quality, and I thought that was very nice. Thank you very much for doing that. You've inspired me. This is just a thought. This is something which we advise devotees to do sometimes. Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he did a seminar. He did one seminar. How to love those who hurt you the most. Hari Bol. That's interesting, isn't it? How to love those who hurt you the most. Yeah. Now, I wanted also just to throw in as a concluding remark that there is also transcendental envy. And if you want, you can have a look at, you can find it in Nectar of Devotion. There's a whole little section, but it's there. Transcendental envy. It looks like the sort of envy that we are used to and inevitably we have experienced. But actually it's on a higher level, it's spiritual, it's pure. And it's part of devotional activity. I think there's a couple of examples given, but one is Srimati Radharani is studying one other gopi. No, I can't do. I'll study Rupa Nuga. I can't study the ladies. But Radharani is studying this one, looking at her. Krishna has just decorated the face of that gopi, doing gopi dots. Or as the brahmacharis say sometimes, dopey dots. Anyway, that's another subject. Gopi dots. Yeah, and Krishna has done these dots, these decorations and swirls and, whatever else. It looks just incredible. It's practically like a work of art. So beautiful on both sides of the face. And Radharani's looking at her. It just looks exquisite. And Radharani says to the other gopi, "You're not very beautiful." This is very typical, on the material level, at least to think like that. You're not very beautiful. Because when Krishna was decorating your face, he was right there, right in front of you. We're talking about a few inches apart. But because you're not beautiful, Krishna was not affected by you being so close. He was not affected. And therefore he was able to do the decoration so perfectly. Otherwise, you get streaks and whatever, and splodges and stuff. And so Radharani concludes, you're not very beautiful. But it's transcendental. It's transcendental. Because Srimati Radharani knows that Krishna is pleased by the beauty of the gopis. So when the gopis sort of present themselves in very beautiful ways, Krishna becomes pleased. And that's the whole idea, to please Krishna. Yeah? So what Radharani is saying, really, the actual meaning is, you have failed to please Krishna, and that is not good. And for Radharani, she becomes upset. She becomes upset when she sees that devotees fail to please Krishna. Okay, so that's an example given in Nectar of Devotion. You can look it up. And that's an example of transcendental envy. Otherwise, try to cultivate appreciation. I mentioned last night, I think many of you were here, gratitude. Gratitude is extremely important. Appreciation is related. It may be even sort of sometimes the same thing. But we should try to appreciate the good qualities of the devotees. And you'll find that even the worstest devotee, who's just, the local, a bit of a joke amongst the devotees because just can't get it together in Krishna consciousness. But if you study nicely, you'll see even that devotee has many good qualities. Oh yes. Okay, look, here's a few questions. Let us quickly try to answer them. How do you like this question? How can we increase our chanting of rounds? Chant more. How's that? Is that a good answer? I know there must be some subtlety involved, though, which I'm not getting. How can we increase our rounds if we're struggling, and when we get to the end, we feel, boy, I'm glad I finished? Well, there, an answer to that, an answer to that is chant more attentively. Give more attention to the chanting. Then you'll get more experience, more feeling, more sort of internal result from it. And then you'll be happy. You'll at least be willing to chant more. And you may, even if you've really done it nicely, you may just feel you have to chant more. You may not be able to stop yourself. Yeah. Prabhupada said the result of chanting is more chanting. Yeah. How? What now? Yo, I don't understand. It does not compute. That's what the little computer in Doctor Who used to say when I was a child. When Doctor Who first came out, it does not compute. How do we get happiness? Well, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. The next person has answered her attention. Anyway, forgive me, but I'm going to go on from that. Please explain the consequence of gossiping. That's a good point. We know there's a saying, if you give mercy, you get mercy. And it's really true. You give mercy, you get mercy. If you give gossip, you'll get gossip about you. Oh yeah. You gossip, you'll become the target of gossip. Krishna, this is Krishna's arrangement. Krishna's clever. Yeah, so if you gossip, you'll be gossiped about. And if you gossip, your mind will just be a mess. It'll just be a mess. And you just won't be happy. Where is the source of envy? Well, okay, I didn't really talk about that. But the source of envy is that we've become envious of Krishna. We were there. We were there before. But now we're here because we became envious and we thought, why should everyone serve him? Why can't at least one person serve me? Everyone's serving him. Just one out of so many can serve me. Why not? You know, I'm a nice guy. So, like this envy towards the Lord developed in our hearts because he had more and he had better than us. Yeah. So you know, we mentioned envy or lust, anger, greed, all these things. They are removed mainly through the ongoing development of Krishna consciousness, because this means that in our lives we are addressing that underlying cause of envy. Instead of being envious of Krishna, now we're living the life of trying to please Krishna. So, and that is sort of the mechanics of how the envy of Krishna becomes eliminated, and along with it, the envy of anybody else. Does envy go away by acquiring knowledge? Well, yes. It's also part of the process. You know, we have to understand, we should understand, What's wrong with being envious? How it's detrimental, in what ways it's detrimental, what effects it has on us, negative effects. So that cultivation of knowledge is part of the process of, the more direct approach, stopping ourselves from becoming envious because of different understandings we've developed about how useless it is, how dangerous it is. What is the punishment for envious people? Well, I would have to. If you want something specific, I would have to look up in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, last chapter, I think it's 26. 26. Fortunately, my computer is omniscient. Well, not quite, but it really knows a lot more than me. Here's an interesting one. This is now Canto 5, Chapter 26, titled, A Description of the Hellish Planets. And so, verse 11. In this life, an envious person commits violent acts against many living entities. Therefore, after his death, when he's taken to hell by Yamaraj, those living entities who were hurt by him appear as animals called rurus to inflict very severe pain upon him. Learned scholars call this hell Raurava. Not generally seen in this world, the ruru is more envious than a snake. So there you go. You want to know what's the punishment? Meet the rurus. And this is now verse 33 from the same chapter. Those who in this life are like envious serpents, always angry and giving pain to other living entities, fall after death into the hell known as Dandashuka. My dear king, in this hell there are serpents with 5 or 7 hoods. These serpents eat such sinful persons, just as snakes eat mice. How's that? What do you think? Interesting. So if you really get into being envious, if you really become overpowered by envy and you're living in a state of real envy, then these are the things, these are the punishments you'll get. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Go Premanande. More Premanande. Haribol. Ho Gaya.